So YouTube and Facebook, man, appreciate y'all coming back through, man. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page if you haven't already, and if you're on Facebook, go ahead and jump on YouTube and watch it and hit subscribe. But what I was saying before y'all let me know my mic wasn't even working. What I was saying was that it was a couple of things I noticed in well, I've been noticed this, but it's becoming quite clear in this series to me again. And first and foremost, the difference between the Warriors and the Celtics coming out of the halftime, the Celtics seem to come out slow in those third quarters, and the Warriors seem to come out hitting on all cylinders in the third quarter, right? So that's one thing both teams, I guess, got to figure out. The Warriors can figure out to continue to capitalize on that, and maybe they can come out in the first quarter the same type of enthusiasm, and then the Boston Celtics got to figure out how they can not come out slow and how they can not have the Warriors come out so hot in the third quarter. It seemed to work for them for last night. They let that run come in, and then Boston lost the lead, and then they hit back, but they can't rely on that, man. They can't. Sometimes they might lose that lead, and they might not be able to hit back, especially in Golden State. So they really got to figure out that third quarter piece. But so that's one thing. But on the other end of the spectrum, Boston Celtics absolutely 100% has owned the fourth quarter in the two wins, games 1 and games 3. They've owned the fourth quarter, right? And to the tune of last night, the Celtics outscored the Warriors. I want to say the Warriors, I think it was like 28-11 or something like that. And it was kind of similar in the first game. I think the Golden State only scored like 14, 15 points in the fourth quarter. That's pretty bad, especially when you got like somebody like Steph and Clay on your squad and all this offensive firepower they're supposed to have, and Jordan Poole and all that. So that fourth quarter piece has been very beneficial for the Boston Celtics. And I'm going to tell you why I think it is. The Warriors are led by Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a 6'3" small guy. In the fourth quarter, especially in the playoffs, those whistles don't get blew on that much. They don't toot those whistles a lot in the playoffs in the fourth quarters. So that allows you to guard up on Steph a little tighter. That allows you to be more physical with them on and off the ball, and everything tighten up for the Warriors as far as offense in the fourth quarter. And that's why you've seen them look so so different in the fourth quarter, and why Boston is owning them. Boston is bigger, and if most of your points is coming from 6'3" little Steph Curry, we figured out if we get really physical with him, he's not going to be able to get those easy shots off, even those threes. He's not going to be able to get that stuff off, and that's why Kevin Durant was so important to the Warriors, because the Cavs figured out when they came back from 3-1 in their finals, they figured out if you really, really, really get really physical with Steph, it throws the whole Warriors offense off, because just like everyone always says, everything revolves around Steph. Right, that whole offense revolves around Steph, and when you take him out of the game in the fourth quarter, he can't get that shot. That's when we came back with, KD, take us home. That's why KD was so important to the Warriors, and hopefully everyone can see that now. And maybe the Warriors come back and they still win this finals, but maybe not. And if they don't, I think the formula is what the Celtics is doing. We'll go guard Steph the best we can. I don't understand why they are dropping on those screens, but it seems like it's like a rope-a-dope, because these 3 games I'm used to seeing Golden State with a lot of ball movement, a lot of off the ball movement, and a lot of passing and a lot of assists for the team as a whole. They haven't hit 30 assists yet in this game. Last night they only had 22, 23 assists. That's really low for Golden State, especially that type of offense. They're usually in the 30s with their assists. So what that tells me is they're not moving the ball and playing that Golden State style offense that we used to seeing. And the reason why they're not is because Boston is guarding Steph in a way where they giving him a lot of threes, and he's killing. He's averaging 30 a game, but he can't give it to you in the fourth. So I think what Boston is saying, as long as we're giving Steph this and nobody else gets involved, when it comes to the fourth quarter, we can shut Steph down by just getting physical, and then no one else is going to be in rhythm. And that's kind of the type of thing that Steve Kerr and the Warriors have done against LeBron on multiple occasions in the finals, right? So I think the Warriors probably should be able to identify what they really doing, and they need to kind of change that, right? So yeah, I just wanted to point that part out. And I think on my live last night, I pointed out the foul differential. Last game, nobody on the Warriors team had more than 2 fouls except Draymond, and he got that third foul when the game was already over. So basically, when the game was, I guess, a matchup before it was a blowout, nobody on the Warriors team had more than 2 fouls. The whole squad, nobody had more than 2. And this was sometime in the third quarter. Nobody had more than 2 fouls on the Warriors team. And I was thinking, they're playing so physical, and Draymond is being so disruptive. How is it that no one has 2 fouls? I mean, have more than 2 fouls on the entire Warriors team. But when you look on the Celtics team, their 2 stars got 2 fouls in the first quarter. And here it is in the third quarter, and nobody on the Warriors team had more than 2. But they gave 2 fouls to Jalen Green, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum in the first quarter. And I want to say Marcus Smart got his third foul in the second quarter, got his 4th foul in the third quarter. So that was blowing a whistle on the Celtics whenever they tried to get physical. But when the Warriors was getting physical, they allowed it, right? It was not a total opposite. It wasn't a total flip this game. What it was they just called the fouls against the Warriors that they didn't call last game. And you seen Draymond foul out, you seen Steph get 4 fouls, and you seen Wiggins get 4 fouls. So it was different for this. So you gotta watch the officiating and the whistle a little bit, who they're allowing to get aggressive and who they're not allowing to get aggressive. So that's one thing you gotta watch in the series. And then watch Steph in the fourth. Steph and the Warriors get shut down a little bit too easy in the fourth, and that's been the difference in those games that the Boston Celtics won. But it's another thing I wanted to get into though. So I was asking myself, is Draymond Green becoming a distraction for the Warriors? And the reason why I say that is because he got a couple of things going on. One, he's always going to give media something to talk about, and get him something to run with at the post game conferences. He usually does, especially if they win. He talks the most when they win. He talks all the time. He's not going to shut up when they lose, but when they win, he's a front runner. He's going to talk the most, and he's going to get out there and talk about how great Steph is. And hey, man, everything has revolved around Steph, even when KD was here, and we've never lost when we was whole. And he's going to say all these things, and he's really writing checks that he is not going to contribute to cashing. It's up to Steph and Klay to come out here and cash those checks. Draymond is doing all the talking, but Steph got to come cash the check for him. And I think that is a little unfair to Steph, and I think that is a little bit of a distraction. And then he goes on this podcast, and I don't know what the contract is with with the volume, which is what his podcast is at, but it looked like he does a show every night, right? So win, lose, or draw, he got to go on there and talk for an hour. You know what I mean? So instead of him going out and getting treatment and getting sleep in the hotel room, he got to get up. He got to go live, and talk about the game, and he got to give juicy stuff for clicks. So that can become a distraction. It's not what he's saying all the time. Like, it ain't like he's going out there and giving away X's and O's and game plans that Steve Kerr is coming up with during film session. He's not revealing that. But when you go out there and you know what, as a matter of fact, I'll play something he said last night.
Yes, my family is livid, and trust me, I get it. I totally understand. But for me, who's raising a young black man in America, for him to understand how this world works, for him to understand how America works, as opposed to how they say America works, that was just another example of it. And so, no harm, no foul. Draymond. Draymond. You too.
That was his response to the Boston Celtics fans saying Draymond sucks. I heard that. I didn't hear that F you Draymond, but evidently they said that too. Because Clay made a comment about it. He said, "Hey man, real classy for the fans to, be throwing F bombs out in front of kids and all that stuff." And then Draymond's wife took the IG and she discussed how disgusted she was and how she was pissed off that her kids had to hear their dad getting the F bomb thrown at them and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, your dad's your husband is a tough dude that dishes it out. Like, he F bombed his own teammate on the sideline in front of cameras and called him the B word. This is Kevin Durant, one of the best. This is the best player on your team that you gave that type of treatment to in front of everybody and didn't even want to apologize. Right? This is I mean, come on, like you go call this man a B word and say we don't need you, we won without you. Right? So this is this same guy that said all that to Kevin Durant, but now you want to get on IG and complain about Boston fans for chanting "F you, Draymond." After the game before, he just ran around like a pit bull, cussing out referees, cussing out players, and then cussing out Udoka, the Boston Celtics coach, on the sideline with no repercussion. This is what Draymond Green was doing, running around in game 2, and it was allowed because I guess the NBA wanted that type of entertainment on television. It was allowed for him to do all that. It was allowed for him to disrespect a head coach that was the opposing team, disrespect the players, curse at them, cuss at the referees, which he did again last night as well. Once he fouled out, he's on the sideline, still fussing and cursing at the referee. Like, I just don't understand how that's okay. But fans not coming out of the stands, not throwing anything, chanting "F you, Draymond." I like you can't try to take the high road and be like, oh, but my kids are here. You shouldn't be saying that. I don't know if they're just trying to create some type of drama that's going to help galvanize the team so they can come out and play with some type of force. I think that's what probably was. I don't think this is real. I don't think they really got their feelings hurt for real. I think their feelings are hurt that they lost. Because if they would have won that game last night, I don't think nobody goes on IG or goes to the podium in the post game and complains about the Boston crowd. I think they would have went out there and probably would have poked fun at them a little bit, saying, hey, we shut y'all up. I think that would have been a thing. And then I think they would have took their own shots at the Boston fans. But since they lost, the feeling that they feeling, they think their feelings is hurt because they were saying F you, Draymond, but that's not what it is. Because if that was what it is, you would have told Draymond to behave himself. You get what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to do it publicly, but you wouldn't be so supportive of him going out there acting like a freaking nut. You wouldn't have been supportive of him talking to Kevin Durant at that time. Not one person walked up to Draymond and broke that up. Nobody talked to Draymond out there happened. Kevin Durant said everybody in the locker room act like it didn't even happen. No one has I don't want to use the word control, but nobody has the type of influence over Draymond that can rein him in. Don't seem like nobody has it. You get what I'm saying? I don't think no one has it. And I really think that he is becoming a distraction. Like I said, I think that he is writing checks that the Warriors and Steph Curry can't cash. And I think he's just gonna keep doing it. And the problem they're running into is rubbing so many people the wrong way. I mean, you even disrespected Hall of Famer Cedric Maxwell, who was a Finals MVP. Right? You even disrespected him, and that soundbite is going all the way around. Right? You ain't had no respect enough for him to just be like, all right, man. He not even the fact that he's a Hall of Famer, the fact that he's an elder. Right? You ain't have to go at him like that. I don't care what he said. He didn't say nothing disrespectful to you. But you go and, pretty much just disrespect him, man. You ain't give him no courtesy as being an elder or a big brother in your basketball fraternity or Hall of Famer and a Finals MVP. You ain't give him no respect. Right. So this is the type of stuff his mouth is doing, and he's doing it on a daily basis because he has a podcast and because they always call him into the podium for the post games. Right. And he probably gonna have more sound bites for media day, the day before the game or the day of the game. He'll make the news again before today's out or sometime tomorrow. He will. Right. And hopefully he come out and can give somebody more than 2 points and 6 fouls, 2 points and 4 rebounds. Right. So which leads me to actually another thing about Draymond before I move on. There is one thing that Draymond is talking about that I actually agree with and I like. So I think he made a comment about the new media, and I'm glad Draymond is doing his podcast and all that stuff and getting everything ready for what he would like to do once he retired from basketball. Right. I applaud him for that. I think JJ Redick was doing his podcast the last 2 years he was playing. Vince Carter started his podcast the last year he was playing. CJ McCollum started his podcast 2 years ago. And I've listened to all of them. Right. And one thing that is done, it has got them pretty much put an audition tape out there for ESPN and Fox Sports and whoever else to get them jobs. And you seen CJ McCollum on First Take this week. We see that Vince Carter has a spot, a reoccurring spot as well. We see JJ Redick now has a spot on First Take. And of course, Draymond Green is, signed by Turner, and his podcast is with on the Volumes YouTube channel, right? So it's working. We like that. So Draymond has tokened it, called the new media, and I like that because the guys that we have in there now, like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon and Nick Wright and Mad Dog and all these guys, they're a little bit too personal and a little bit too much of a show, right? But because they've learned, media, and they learn what gets the clicks, and they know what clickbait is, and they're selling drama. That's why people like Stephen A. Smith always has a beef with some player, because people, whether they like it or not, you can hate Stephen A. or like Stephen A., but you're going to watch, even when people like myself that don't personally listen to Stephen A., every now and then I listen just to hear what nonsense he's saying about a player, right? And I don't know why I do that. And, so it's getting clicks. They know what they're doing, but no one really likes it. No one wants to turn on ESPN and hear Stephen A. Smith talk personally about a player and not discuss what's going on the court, right? So I'm gonna play a clip from Draymond Green kind of discussing that same thing, and then it's another clip out there as well. Hold on.
Those shut up and play, shut up and dribble days, those are long gone. We don't listen to that anymore. We don't want to hear it anymore. It has no place here, and nor will it be tolerated. I also proceeded to say, it's time for you to go home and sit on your couch and thank the good Lord that I didn't want his job. I meant that from the bottom of my heart. Before I signed with Turner, I was actually offered a spot on First Take. So there's your backstory I don't play games. I don't play these reindeer games. When I speak from the heart. When I speak, no, it's real, it's thoughtful, and more importantly, it's truthful. When I say sincerely yours, the new media, what I mean by that is the landscape of media is about to change. You will no longer be allowed to sit there and say what you want. You will no longer be allowed to put out these false narratives. You will no longer be able to allow to not know what you're talking about, and we're going to listen to you. Those days are long gone. You know why? Because we have guys like JJ Redick, who's done it, who speaks it, who knows how to speak on any different topic, who's not afraid to shut an idiot up. When I say sincerely yours, the new media, you will be held accountable.
I agree with him. Right. I do like this movement with the new media. I do like the fact that players are getting into media and they know what they're talking about, and they're not with the game of let me talk personally about a player and start beefs with them, hoping that people like the drama and want to watch that. Right. I hope people like Stephen A. Smith, even though what Draymond just said was geared toward Stephen A.'s sparring partner and Mad Dog Russo, whatever his name is. I think him and Draymond got a little thing. But if you really listen to what he's saying about Mad Dog, it actually relates to Stephen A. as well. He's a big mouth, loud mouth. He runs off drama and making these idiotic comments about players and getting real personal and discussing their paycheck and their money and affecting their paycheck and their money. Now that's what Stephen A. Smith has been doing. And JJ Redick has called him out several times. CJ McCollum, first time on First Take, called him out several times. T.O. came on and called him out. Max Kellerman used to call him out every daggone day. Right. And guys like that got to be getting phased out, man. But in order for it to happen, we got to have guys to replace them with, like the Charles Barkleys and the Draymond's and the CJs and the JJs and all that stuff. But more than that, we got to stop watching that old stuff. We got to stop watching the drama that they selling us. We got to stop watching it. We got to stop subscribing to it. Remember 2 years ago when Stephen A. I think this might have been before Stephen A. really got his huge contract with ESPN, and I think that he was trying to figure out what his next move was going to be. He had his afternoon radio show or podcast, whatever he was doing. So he had that on the side that he was doing. He had tried to start getting into acting. He was I don't know what soap opera he's on. Some people would say ESPN is a soap opera as long as he's there, but he was on a real soap opera playing some guy named Brick that he had a real current role on. So he was trying to dibble and dabble into acting. And then he was trying to get his face out there just to see where else we could put him. And they threw him in the slot with an MMA fight that had Conor McGregor. Y'all remember that 2 years ago? And Stephen A., I don't know why he thought he could just jump into fighting and start using his same tactics that he used in the NBA in the fighting world, in the MMA world, right? Like Stephen A., I don't think he really know nothing about basketball like that for real, but he's been around it so long, and he's such a entertaining guy with how he speaks, and he got the gift of gab, so he can go out there and make you think he knows what he's talking about, but he really does not. He really does not. That's why he always loved going into other things where he's talking about KD or Kyrie Irving, and it has nothing to do with basketball, right? You know, that's his thing. If you try to get him in a conversation with X's and O's, it ain't gonna go long, right? So anyway, I don't know if you heard it, but Joe Rogan called him out. I'm gonna play that clip.
There's the emotional cost of losing a fight is so much different than losing a game. It's not the same. And there's a culture in sports broadcasting, whether it's radio or television, this just diminishing of people. There's this shit talking that goes with sports. You know, he always falls apart. That guy, that motherfucker needs to give his money back. He sucks. He this and that. And the other guy's like, oh, I can't believe you're saying that. And you could do that in sports radio, and people love it. Because if you're on the job site and you're listening to the radio and you're fucking hammering nails, you're like, you're right, he does suck. And there's a mentality that goes along with that kind of sports radio, sports guy talk. I hate that shit. I've resisted that from the beginning, and I've shit on those guys from the beginning because it's not the same thing. You're not talking about the same thing. You're talking about fighting. You're talking about unbelievable physical consequences, including, knock on wood, in our sport, it's very rare, but death.
Yeah, no, it's true. But the other thing though too is that you're criticizing someone for being a quitter and someone who's been there on every level of the game.
Every level.
But not only that, but then you look like you've never played basketball or baseball or any other sport in your life either. Hit mitts like that. I'm sorry. So you cannot criticize people. And to be on a talk show, like you're saying, those talk show radios, that's the energy you need to bring when you're going against someone like Max Kellerman or any of the other, or Skip Bayless and those guys. Go ahead and have that conversation with them. But you can't look like that and then talk shit. I'm sorry, man.
That culture, the culture of the sport. Look, Max Kellerman is a different animal. Max Kellerman is incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to sports, and really so when it comes to boxing. He's not a shit talker. He's just more honest about it.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's a lot of currency in being a Stephen A. Smith. You know, he's really entertaining. That shit talking that he does, he's a guy that's fun to watch. He talks a lot of shit. He gets real loud, and everybody disagrees with him. And look, it's made him a fantastic career. That's why. And he carries that over to MMA. I think it's a bad idea.
Is it?
And it was definitely a bad idea. He ain't been invited back since. It was horrible. So it was so bad, and he got called out so bad for it. He started posting him training boxing videos, and that even made it worse. Like he was trying to post stuff like he was trying to learn the sport, like he really wanted to be an analyst for MMA. Like he just doing too much, man. But anyway, my whole point is, like, man, we got to get rid of guys like that, man. Like we really do, man. Like they feed on drama, man, and it just ain't fun. Like I like basketball. I don't like soap operas, right? So I don't tune in sports networks or sports radio to hear drama and soap opera stuff, man. Like, you know, some people that really didn't play basketball, who just was a fan of it, they might not mind hearing that was the weakest move by a superstar I ever seen. How do you leave a team and join a team that beat you the year before? And like that might sound good to somebody that don't play the game, but what I would rather hear when I tune in to sports radio is X's and O's, man. Like, you know, tell me about how he played in the post. So tell me what he's good at and all this stuff. Not just throwing out stats and numbers and then throwing out narratives and storylines and thinking that's gonna be cool. That, you know, they don't satisfy people that actually play ball, man. So I'm with Draymond and Joe Rogan on that, man. That, you know, sports need a different voice than somebody that's gonna be kind of like what Stephen A. and Mad Dog Russo and Nick Wright is, and Shannon Sharp for that matter as well. So let's go ahead and get to what I think the Warriors need to do for Game 4. Well, first and foremost, they got out rebounded by 16 rebounds, right? Kevon Looney is their best rebounder. He took over the Mavs series with his rebounding, and he only played 16 minutes last night. The reason why he only played 16 minutes is because I don't know if they're trying to match Boston's lineup with small ball, because Williams got some size on him, but when Williams go sit down and they got Al Horford at the 5 and Brown, Tatum, and then White and Marcus Smart, that's a good lineup. And I think they like that lineup defensively as well, because they can switch everything with that lineup. I think they're trying to match that lineup by taking Looney out and having Draymond play the 5. And that's getting them out rebounded. Draymond's averaging 4 rebounds in this series. He's not enough. And you can't be getting out rebounded by 16. That's Boston's strength. They're bigger than y'all, right? You got to play Looney. You got to play him more than 16 minutes. And I think you got to find some minutes for either Kuminga or Toscano Anderson or both, because Anderson's not huge. He's 6'9" ish, right? But he's a rebounder and he's a defender, and he can move fast enough to switch screens and guard some of the smaller guys. So, I mean, at least try him. Don't just have him on the bench and you're down 2-1 and you're still playing in Boston and you're not trying new things, right? Boston is too big for him. What up, Eric? Boston is too big, but you got to try something new, and stop doing the same exact thing, because what's happening is you're playing your game, and unless you land a knockout punch, it don't look like you can beat Boston. They had a knockout punch for them in game 2. Without a knockout punch, I don't know if Boston is going to lose to Golden State, because they've shown in the fourth quarters they know how to lock them up. They know how to lock Steph up in the fourth, and they go on their runs in the fourth, right? So the game has to be over before the fourth in order for Golden State to win, it seems like. And the only way I think they can, if the game is close in the fourth, I don't think Golden State can do the same thing they've been doing, sitting Kevon Looney, playing Draymond Green, and Draymond Green giving you 2 points. They're not even guarding him, especially at the perimeter, right? So I think someone that is more offensive firepower from Kuminga. You might want to try Kuminga to see if he might be better out there than Draymond. You try Iguodala, I don't think he's going to be able to give it to you. So try Kuminga or try Toscano Anderson at the 4. Or if you want to play this, if you want to take Luna out, so you can switch every screens and be more versatile on defense, then try Toscano Anderson at the 5 and Kuminga at the 4. Just try something. You gotta try something. But I think that'll help Draymond on the rebounding, because I think Kuminga and Anderson both will help on the rebound if you don't want to play Looney. But if you really want to answer that question of getting rebounded by 16, then you might want to keep Kevon Looney in for more than 16 minutes. And if you can't do that, and if you lose game 4 and you go down 3-1, the series is pretty much over. You might get that win in game 5 at home, but then when you come back to Boston for game 6, I think they close it out. So in my mind, I'm thinking what might happen, I think Boston might lose this game 4 in Boston, and I think they go back to Golden State 2-2. If that happens, then Golden State probably will win that game at home, and they'll go up 3-2, and then they'll come back to Boston and with a chance for Boston to tie it up. But if all that happens and it goes to a game 7, I'm picking the Warriors. However, if Boston wins this, it ain't gonna be no 3-1 comeback. If Boston wins this game 4 and they go up 3-1, it won't be a 3-1 comeback. It's only gonna go 6. They'll go and say to win at home. The series will be 2-3, and then they go back to Boston, and Boston will win that game 6, and the series will be over in 6, 4-2, and Jaylen Brown will be the Finals MVP. So what does that mean for the Golden State Warriors and their legacy? Well, this is what it's going to mean. It's going to mean that they got really good. They got MVP season out of Steph Curry, and they made their first finals in 2015. And the team they faced, led by LeBron James, lost their number 2 and their number 3 best player, and Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. And the Golden State Warriors beat them. The same 2 teams met the next year in the finals, the same year that Golden State won a regular season record 73 games, and both teams were whole. And Golden State lost their finals. So what that tells me is that Cleveland Cavaliers really was the better team. And the Warriors couldn't beat the Cavaliers intact and whole, right? And then they added Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant made them unbeatable. And they went to 3 straight finals with Kevin Durant. They won 2 easily. 4-1 one year and 4-0 the other year against them same Cavs teams. 4-1 gentleman sweep and 4-0 sweep. Unbeatable with Kevin Durant. And then they went to a third finals and Kevin Durant got hurt, tore his Achilles, and then they lose. So it looks like without Kevin Durant, the Warriors are really good, even good enough to make the finals. But against the best team in the finals, without Kevin Durant, the Warriors usually lose, except for that 1 year when the Cavs lost their second and third most important player on their team. If that wouldn't have happened, I don't think the Warriors have any championships. So their legacy really is, we got 2 rings because Kevin Durant is a freaking monster, and we got 1 ring because LeBron James lost all his help. And that's going to be the little Warriors legacy. You can't tell me otherwise. You can't change my mind on that. Right? Andre is done. He's an assistant now. That's true. That's true. 100% agree with it. Kuminga and Looney needs much more time. Yeah, and Kuminga, they tried Kuminga last series, or was it the series before? They tried him in Memphis for sure. He even started 2 games in Memphis, and he didn't do horrible on offense. But I seen him miss so many assignments on defense. Even in that Dallas series, they tried him. He didn't start, but they tried him in the Dallas series, and Bronson was just cooking him. Like he was getting backdoor, and his own ball defense wasn't there. The kid's only 19. He's a young kid. That dude talented, man. The Warriors got potentially a T-Mac type player. If he develops right, the dude has T-Mac potential. He's 6'9", moves like a 6'3" guard, jumps out of the gym, right? The dude, I mean, he got a wonderful basketball body. He's in shape. Like the dude is a phenomenal athlete and a good ball player, and he can shoot it a little bit, not quite yet, kind of like T-Mac was when he was in Toronto. I mean, he's very similar to T-Mac, man. So imagine it as much as Jordan Poole has developed, and I seen Wiseman last year. Look, I mean, I really like him. He was a little bit raw, but Wiseman is a heck of a player, right? And then they got Kuminga, who got T-Mac capabilities. What it's looking like is they done gave Steph, Clay, and Draymond max contracts and big time money, and they got these players under them that needs to develop. But these dudes are so good and have so much potential. It's really going to be hard to keep them on the bench and sticking with the program to wait their turn when their free agent year comes. So what Golden State is really going to have to do at some point is make that decision to where Poole is getting more minutes than Clay and where Kuminga is getting more minutes than Draymond. But I think you don't really have an issue with Wiseman, because I think Wiseman is more talented than Looney. So, but you got to pay Looney this summer too. So, if Looney gets some money this summer, it might cause some conflicts. And I think Kuminga might not be much of a conflict because I think he can play the 3, right? So you can put him in at the 3, but then that causes a conflict with Wiggins. Like they got a lot of things they got to figure out, and it looks pretty right now. But how are they going to keep these young guys that's on the bench that's chopping at the bit and that's ready to go? That was the issue with Boston. Boston had drafted Tatum. He was a rookie, and the year before that they drafted Jaylen Brown, and then the year before that they drafted Smart, right? And then sometime in that process they got Rozier, And then they picked up Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, and you got all these guys playing the same position. You know, Kyrie, Smart, and Rozier, all point guards. Gordon Hayward, Tatum, and Brown, all small forwards, right? So you got all these dudes, and you got Kyrie and Hayward that was supposed to be the number 1 and number 2 for the team. But Hayward get hurt first game of the season. Kyrie get hurt right before All-Star break. And then Rozier, Smart, Tatum, and Brown take you to the Eastern Conference Final against LeBron. And now when Kyrie and Hayward comes back the next season, you got to tell these dudes to go back to the bench. It's not going to work. It's hard. It's hard to figure that out, right? So what ended up having to happen is Kyrie had to leave. Hayward had to get traded. They even got rid of Rozier, and they uncluttered that cluster and was like, we got to go be clear with these guys and move forward with them. And it's easier to do that because Kyrie and Hayward and Rozier never bought them a championship. So you don't really feel like you owe them nothing. But for Golden State, with Draymond, even Wiggins, even though Wiggins wasn't part of the championship squad, but Draymond, Wiggins, Steph, and Clay, you feel like you owe them something. And I know they feel like they owe them something because Clay shouldn't even be in the starting lineup right now. It should be Poole. Clay not giving you what we, except for last game. Clay showed up last game. That's about it. But Poole should be starting. Poole should be starting based on how Clay been playing all playoffs. Poole should be starting, and they didn't have no problem when Steph came back in the first round because he missed 12 games before the playoffs. So in the first round, Poole was playing so well against Denver. They had Steph coming off the bench. He ain't had no problem doing that, which is a selfless act by the best player on your team. But for Clay, him coming off those injuries and him not playing well, I think it'll mess his head up if you send him to the bench. And they don't want to mess his head up, right? So they being loyal to Clay and saying, look, we're going to stick with you until you figure it out. But the real answer would be, hey, Clay, you coming off the bench until you figure it out. We trying to win this championship. So, but he showed up last night, so maybe he out of his funk and all that stuff, man. But yeah, that's gonna be what's coming up for the Warriors. They got to make decisions on those young guys because that talent is too good. Poole is all-star level. Kuminga, he hasn't broke out yet, but he has all-star potential. And so does Wiseman. So I agree 100%. Poole and Kuminga should get more minutes than Clay and Dre. Moody is very talented too. Yeah, Moody is talented too, but Moody got a ceiling. Poole should be starting. Wiggins is just inconsistent and has been his whole career. No, man, Wiggins ain't inconsistent, man. Okay. So, all right. Wiggins is inconsistent, and when he was in Minnesota, I would say this. He would show you all-star level play for a 5-game, 6-game stretch, even to the point where even when the Warriors was playing such good basketball during Steph's MVP seasons, I was rooting for the Warriors. I was rooting for Steph, but every time they played the T-Wolves, Wiggins would destroy them. And that was because he was 6'7" with a big body and could shoot over people and had a nice mid-range, and he would take you in the post and just turn and shoot. Like he was good. They didn't have nobody to stop him. And he would always destroy the Warriors. And I was like, man, this dude good. Even when they played the Lakers after the game, Kobe said, man, that dude's a superstar. Right? I think Kobe might have won, but Wiggins was giving it to Kobe. Kobe gave him props. So he'll show you that type of greatness or that type of great potential. And then team won't make the playoffs, or, it'd be a marquee game on television, and he don't show out. And I don't think that's because he's inconsistent. I think that's because he has a personality of a Scottie Pippen, right? And kind of the same thing Anthony Davis had. And when your personality type is like that, you're better suited to be a sidekick. No matter, I mean, his talent is number one potential, or already at number one level. He can be a number one. He was a number one with the T-Wolves before Karl Anthony Towns came. It was him, Zach LaVine, and Payne, and a couple of more guys, right? He's been a number one, but his personality is probably sidekick. You know, so I wouldn't. I think inconsistent is a strong word. I don't want to say inconsistent. I just want to say that. I mean, everybody can't be MJ. Somebody got to be Pippen. Or somebody got to be Rodman. Everybody can't be MJ. But I expect Golden State to answer back in Game 4. So we'll see how they go. And then what is the game tomorrow, Friday? I'll probably go live again Friday after the game. If them boys go down 3-1 though, man. If they go down 3-1, they might mess around and not even win their home game going back to Golden State. If they go down 3-1, then I'm really right about Draymond writing checks that they can't cash. Like this talking, and look, I get it. You want to be part of the media at some point. Well, you already part of the media, you're right. I get it. But man, talk about anything other than the series you're involved in right now. Like serious. Somebody's got to be telling him that that's a distraction. Like seriously, man. Like you can't give a team bulletin board material, and that's why. And like people understand that, and that's why Kevin Durant was so mad when Bruce Brown, before the series started against Boston, and they asked him, "Hey, look, man, Robert Williams is out, for at least the first 2 games. How do you feel about that?" And Bruce Brown came out and was like, "Oh man, we go attack Horford and attack Tice, and they can't stop us from getting to the rim without Williams." And I'm like, man, you don't say stuff like that before you about to face an opponent, man. You don't give them bulletin board material to fire them up and come out here motivated against you. And that's what Draymond keeps doing, and he's adding fuel to the fire. He keeps going in at his podcast and at the post games, and he keeps giving Boston ammo to use to come out fired up and play against them. And that's the last thing you want. You want them to come out not fired up, come out relaxed. Come out, you know what I mean? Just something, man, just overconfident or whatever. But you got to be tactful a little bit. And I think Draymond's not being very tactful in his approach. And it's possibly because he just think that they're so daggone good that they just go win this. And another thing I think he's doing, I think the referees are disliking him now. And they're humans too. So that's going to play into how they officiate against you as well. This might not be the only game that you get in foul trouble or either foul out in this series. They're not going to let you run amok like you did in game 2. You think they didn't go back and watch film on that and get, probably graded and criticized on, hey, man, y'all let all these fouls go. I don't know, man. And you showing them up. You went to the press game and went to your podcast and talked about how, I knew I wasn't going to get thrown out of the game for a tech. No one comes to watch the game to see somebody get thrown out, So, I knew I wasn't crossing the line. Like, these are things you're saying. I just think it's stupid. It's a distraction. So if I was Coach Kerr, if I was the front office for Golden State, I'd be like, man, I don't know what contract you got for your podcast, but you got a contract with us first, and we pay you your big paycheck, and you need to stop talking about the series on your podcast. Talk about anything else in basketball or football or whatever you want to talk about, but let's stop discussing this series. You can't go in there talking about the Boston crowd and saying F you and all this stuff and talking about the refs and all. Like, you got to stop all that. That's what I would be saying. So we'll see how it go. We'll see how it play out. But until next time, peace.